Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to this video. I'm Venkat and this is Just Me an Open Source channel. Right, so this is the second video in the Monday Mongo series Learn MongoDB playlist. So in this video, we are going to look at how to install MongoDB server on various distributions. So the distributions that I'm going to show today are CentOS 7, Ubuntu 18.04, and Arch Linux. Because I'm using Arch Linux, I wanted to show you how you can install that. Right. Um, there are a couple of ways to install. You can install the packages directly on your host machine or virtual machine or whatever machine you've got. That's the old school method. And you can also install and run MongoDB server as a Docker container, which I will show you at the end. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how to install MongoDB on CentOS 7. Uh, I've got a CentOS 7 machine, which is an LXC container. It's not a virtual machine. It's just a lightweight Linux container. So if I do LXC list, I've got a CentOS and an Ubuntu container, CentOS 7 and Ubuntu 18.04 LXC container. So let me log into the CentOS container. LXC exec CentOS bash. So I'm inside the CentOS container, and now we are going to install MongoDB server. Okay, so I'm going to go to my browser and search for installing MongoDB Community Edition. And there is the docs here, docs.mongodb.com. I'm going to click on that link. Install on Linux, install on RedHat, Ubuntu, Debian, SUSE, and on Amazon. So let's go ahead with Red Hat. So install MongoDB Community Edition on Red Hat Enterprise or CentOS Linux. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so basically we will be installing four packages. The MongoDB org server, so that's the actual MongoDB server. MongoDB org Mongo S, which is the sharding process. If we are going to enable sharding in the cluster, we need to be using the Mongo S process. So I'll come to sharding in one of my later videos, but this is just a plain installation of MongoDB server, but that's needed. Uh, MongoDB org shell, so like the MySQL command line client, MySQL shell, you've got the MongoDB shell where you enter the commands like creating the database collections or inserting, updating, and all those things. So it's a MongoDB shell and MongoDB org tools that comes with certain binaries, tools like Mongo import, export. If you're familiar with MySQL dump, there's a similar command here, Mongo dump, and Mongo stat and Mongo top. So those are like supporting tools for MongoDB. So these are the four packages. MongoDB org, so that's, as it says, it's a meta package, just one package that will install all these four packages. Right, the first thing you're going to do is to add a yum repository. So this is for MongoDB version 4.0 dot something. I don't know what the version is going to be. Let's check after installing it. Okay, the first thing is copy the yum repo configuration file, vi etc m.repos.d slash mongodb.repo, paste that, close it, and now we are good to install MongoDB-org. So that's the first package here, a meta package that installs all the below four packages for us. Okay, so yum install -y mongodb.org. All right, the installation has been completed. So now we've got all the components of the MongoDB installed. Let's take a quick look. Which Mongo? So that's the Mongo shell. Which Mongo D, that's the server process. Which Mongo S, that's the sharding process. Which Mongo dump, which Mongo stat, which Mongo top, Mongo import, export, and everything is installed. Okay, right. So that's the configuration file. Let's take a look at the configuration file. RPM minus QL mongodb-org shell no, MongoDB-org-server. So these are the list of files that got installed as part of the server package. So var lib mongo. So that's the data directory. If you have used MySQL, var lib MySQL is the data directory, which we can customize it, but the default is var lib MySQL. So similarly, we have var lib mongo here, and a set of man pages, and then we've got var log mongodb mongod.log. So that's the log file. Journal is also enabled. We can also look at the journal ctl minus minus units mongod. No entries because we haven't started the service yet. ls var log mongodb, and there you have the mongod.log. That's going to be our log file. Var lib mongo, so that's our data directory. At the moment it's empty because we haven't started our MongoDB server. Systemctl status mongod is enabled, but it's not running right now. Let's start the service. There is also this configuration file here if you want to change any of the parameters. Let's take a look. vi etc mongod.conf. Okay, so system log path. So the path to the log file var log mongodb mongod.log. That's the log file. If you want, you can change the log file to a custom location. DB path, database path is var lib mongo. Right, journal is enabled, and finally we have the port. So the default port for MongoDB is 27017. And at the moment, by default, it's bound to the local host, so you can't access this MongoDB instance from outside of the host where it's running. And if you want to expose it outside of the host, just change that to 0.0.0.0 or double colon. So that will expose bind to all the interfaces. So that can be accessed from outside of the host. Okay, and if you want, you can change the data directory from varlib mongo to anything else, and the log path to any custom location. But bear in mind, if you change it, you have to set the ownership and group ownership of the directory to be MongoD. Okay, so ID MongoD. So that's the user account that got created as part of the installation. If I do ls minus ld var lib mongo, you can see it's owned and group owned by MongoD. So if you're using a custom path for the data directory or for the log directory, make sure to change the ownership to MongoD for your custom location. Okay, systemctl start MongoD. MongoD should be running now. Systemctl status MongoD. MongoD is running. Less var log mongod.log. So that's the log file, and we can have a look at the journal ctl minus minus unit mongod. Okay, so that's the journal goal. So you will have more information in the log file log var log mongodb mongod.log. Right, so how do you access it? So there's a Mongo shell, which Mongo, so that's the Mongo shell. It's similar to the MySQL command. Just type Mongo because we are running the MongoDB server on the local host. If you were to access a MongoDB server that's running on a separate host, you need to pass the IP address and the port number if it's running on a different port to this command. As we are connecting to the local MongoDB instance, all that's required is just type Mongo. Okay, so now we are inside the Mongo shell. You can do show db, yes, so that's showing the list of databases, and then show collections, no collections at the moment, and use admin, so I'm switching to the admin database, db.stats. Okay, so all those various things which we will cover in the upcoming videos. This is just to show you how you can install and access the MongoDB instance. Okay, so netstat minus nlcp, As you can see, it's running on port, listening on port 27017, and it's bound to the local host, so it can't be accessed outside of the host. Let's make a change. Vi etc mongodb.conf. I'm going to change the IP that it's going to listen from 127.0.0.1 to 0.0.0. So it's going to listen on all the address. Okay. Systemctl restart MongoD. Systemctl status MongoD. Okay, so that's running. Good. netstat minus nlcp. Okay, that's good. So we are running MongoDB on port 0.0.0.0. I don't know how many zeros I mentioned. Okay, so now it can be accessed from any machines, provided you install the Mongo shell on that machine. Okay, so that's how we install MongoDB server on a CentOS 7 machine. I'm going to leave the MongoDB server running because at the end I'll show you how you can connect to this instance from a Mongo shell on a client machine. Okay, exit out of it. I'm going to log into my Ubuntu container lxc exec ubuntu bash. So I'm inside the Ubuntu container. Let's go ahead and install MongoDB on our Ubuntu machine. So I'm going to go back here and install on Ubuntu. The version that's supported is 16.4 LTS and 18.04, 1604 and 1804 LTS. So we've got 1804 at the moment. The first thing is to add the import the public key. Copy, paste it, and then I'm using Ubuntu 1804, so I'm going to add this to the sources file. And if you're using 1604, use that link instead. Okay, copy that and paste it. Apt-get update, and then apt-get install mongodb-arg. It's very similar to what we did on CentOS 7 machine. So because it's a meta package, it installs all these MongoDB arg server, Mongo S for sharding, shell, and tools package like what we saw in CentOS 7. So now it's we have updated our cache. Now we are good to install. Apt-get install -y mongodb-arg. Okay, so it's going to install that server, and we need to start the service. And finally, I will also show you how to uninstall MongoDB. It's just a simple one-line command: apt-get purge mongodb-arg. That will remove all the packages that we installed. All right, so MongoDB is installed. Systemctl status MongoD. Disable. Let's enable it. Systemctl. If you paid careful attention in CentOS, the once we installed the MongoDB service, the MongoDB service was enabled but not started. But here in Ubuntu 18.04, the service is disabled. So we got to enable that. Systemctl enable MongoD. Systemctl start MongoD. MongoD should be running. netstat, and it's 27017 and bound to 127.0.0.1. Okay, ls, let's take a look at the files that it has installed. dpkg-l mongodb-arg. Okay, so everything under user bin. Let's take a look. dpkg-l mongodb.arg. That's installed. Which Mongo? Just type Mongo. We are connecting to the local host. We are inside the shell. Show dbs use admin db.stats. Okay, so everything is looking good. And there's this Mongo stat and Mongo top command if you want to monitor the performance. It's like the Unix top command, Mongo top. Okay, so every second it's going to indefinitely show you some stats, Mongo top, what's being used and how many reads and how many writes are happening and so on. And there is also Mongo stat. All right, cool. So how do you uninstall it? Systemctl stop MongoD. You don't have to stop it. By the way, when you uninstall it, it's going to stop and remove the service. And then apt get purge MongoD. No, I think it's mongodb.org star. Okay, so it's going to remove MongoDB org, Mongo's server, shell, and tools, everything. So let's uninstall everything. Okay, so that's done. And if you can see here, libfree type 6 was installed and it's no longer required. So apt get auto remove. Yes. Okay, so that's done. ls var lib mongo. The data directory is gone. Var log mongo. So MongoDB is completely wiped from our system. So that's how we install, configure, and uninstall the MongoDB database on an Ubuntu 18.04 server. Okay. Right. So now I'm going to show you how you can install it on Arch Linux. Arch Linux used to have a MongoDB official package, but they've removed the official package. They removed the MongoDB package from the official repository, but it's still available in the Arch user repository. So if you're running Arch Linux, you can install yaourt, yaourt, or there is the yay command, sudo pacman -yes, yay, however you wish to pronounce it. So I've got that installed. So that's a helper package, helper application to install packages from the Arch user repository AUR. Okay, so once you have that, a-s MongoDB. So bear in mind, if you go with the default option MongoDB, it's going to take very long time. So I tried that. It took me, actually I didn't let it complete because it was going past like 10-15 minutes, at which point I decided, no, that's not gonna work. I'm not gonna wait. So I control C'd it. I quit that process and I went with the MongoDB bin 3.6 version instead. So I'm going to select number 4 here. So that's going to install the MongoDB bin. So if you go with MongoDB, so that's going to completely build everything from source, which is going to take longer time. And if you choose either MongoDB bin or MongoDB bin dash 3.6, what it's going to do is it's going to take the Debian package, Debian binary, and then it's going to convert that can be installed in your Arch Linux system. So I'm going to go with 4. Okay, that's done. So as you can see, there's Mongo ES, Mongo D, Mongo D.conf, Mongo shell. We've got everything. Okay, which Mongo D, which Mongo S, which Mongo. Okay, so we've got everything. Which Mongo dump, uh, which Mongo import. So we haven't got the supporting tools like Mongo dump, import, export, Mongo stat, Mongo top. To get that, again, there is a package in Arch user repository, a-s Mongo tools/bin. Could not find. I say it's MongoDB-tools-bin. Install that, and we will have all these files. So which Mongo import, which Mongo stat, which Mongo top. So we've got all these installed. Right. So if you want to just install the Mongo shell, just in order to connect to a different MongoDB instance that's running on a different server, all you have to do is a-s MongoDB shell bin. So that's going to install just the Mongo process, Mongo package. So you can type Mongo and the server name and the port number to connect to a remote MongoDB instance if you don't want to install the MongoDB server on your local machine. So that's all it's needed. Similarly, when I showed in CentOS 7 and Ubuntu 18.04, we installed MongoDB-org package. So that installed all the 4 packages, all the components that are required for MongoDB server. But if you just want the MongoDB shell, you can install Um yum install MongoDB org shell on a CentOS 7 machine, or apt-get install MongoDB org shell. So one of those, it's actually here. Yeah, MongoDB org shell. So if you just install that, it's going to give you a shell command which you can use to connect to a remote MongoDB instance. Okay, so systemctl sudo systemctl status MongoDB. Um, if you have noticed, in CentOS and Ubuntu, we used the service was called MongoD, whereas in Arch Linux it's MongoDB. Sudo systemctl status MongoDB, sudo systemctl start MongoDB, sudo systemctl status MongoDB. That's running. Which Mongo? We've got Mongo. So connect to the local MongoDB instance. We are in there. Show DBs. Yeah, we are connected to the local MongoDB instance. So everything is same. We have the var lib Mongo. So actually var lib MongoDB. That's your data directory. Var log MongoDB. So that's your log directory. And etc mongodb.conf. That's your configuration file. Right. So that's how we install MongoDB server or MongoDB components on an Arch Linux. So far I've shown you how to install the package directly on the machine on Arch Linux, CentOS, and Ubuntu. So now we are going to see how to install or run MongoDB as a Docker container. Right. So there is an official MongoDB image which we are going to pull. Um, Let me first stop the service. Sudo systemctl stop MongoDB docker volume ls. So I haven't got any volume, and the command to start the MongoDB server is very simple. Docker run minus minus. Actually, it should be in my history. No, that's not the one. Yep, that's the one. Okay, so docker run minus d to run it in the background in a daemon mode, and minus p. So I'm gonna bind the localhost port 27017 to the port 27017 inside the MongoDB container. Minus v, I'm doing a volume binding. So the data is the local Docker volume. So once I run this command, you should be able to see the Docker volume. And then it's going to bind that Docker volume to /data/db inside the Mongo container. Okay, so that's running Docker ps. Okay, so that's the image. It has got a random image, random name. If you want to give it a specific name, use minus minus name to the Docker run command. And you can see a 27017 is exposed to our local host. Sudo netstat minus nlcp, and we have this 27017. So now we should be able to connect to the MongoDB that's running inside the Docker container. Which Mongo. So we are now connected to our MongoDB instance that's running inside the Docker container. Show DBs. Okay, so that's all looking good. What else? Okay, so the command we used for binding the volume, local data volume to /data/db inside the container. If I do docker volume ls, so there you go. So that's the data directory, the local Docker volume that got created when we bind it to /data/db. Okay, so how do you stop it? Docker ps docker stop amazing Bilani. So that's the name of the container. Docker volume ls docker volume remove data. Okay, it says it's in use. That's because if I do docker ps, there is no container running. We just stopped the container, but we didn't remove the container. So the volume is actually in use. So it won't let us delete the volume unless you delete the container. Docker ps -a, and there you go. So Docker rm amazing Milani. So that's removed. Now Docker volume remove data. That's gone. Docker volume ls. Okay, so that's all gone. So finally, let's do one more verification. So we have got our MongoDB server running in our CentOS Linux container, lxc exec CentOS bash netstat -nlcp. So 27017. So our MongoDB instance is running on this LXC container. I'm going to show you how you can access it from a different machine. Say, for example, you've got a MongoDB instance running somewhere and you want to install a Mongo shell and you want to connect to the remote MongoDB instance. Okay, so I'm going to leave that running here inside the CentOS container, exit out of it, and depending on which distribution you are, just install the MongoDB org shell package, or if you're in Arch Linux, it's MongoDB shell bin. Install that. That will give you the Mongo command. So you can use the Mongo command to connect to the remote instance. LXC list. So my IP address of the CentOS container is 1092.250.137. Okay, so let's try and connect to that instance there. Mongo, I think it's Mongo colon double slash 1092.250.137. Exception no digits. Okay, 27017. Mongo 10.92.250.137. Okay, so that's how basically you connect. And if you're using a different port, you need to specify that port as well. So I didn't try that before. That's why there was a bit of confusion there. So Mongo and the IP address of the remote MongoDB instance you're trying to connect to. So that's how you connect. Show DBs. Okay, cool. So that's how you connect to your remote MongoDB instance. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video. So how to install a MongoDB package onto your Linux machine, whether it's Ubuntu or CentOS or Arch Linux, or how you can run the MongoDB as a Docker container using volume mounts and exposing the port to your host machine. Um, I hope you found this useful. If you've got any doubts or if something is not working for you, just leave me a comment. I'll be more than happy to help you. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I've got many videos planned in this Monday Mongo series. Um, and the next video probably will be about how to create database, how to create collections, how to insert document, and maybe I will mix two videos into one. So I initially thought of doing the database and collections in one video and then inserting, updating, deleting in a second video. But I'll just try and put everything together in one video because we don't have enough content if I just concentrate on the database and collections. Okay. I will see you all in my next episode of Monday Mongo. Till then, it's bye. Thank you for your time watching this video. Bye bye.